Welcome back to Paranormally Correct. I'm your host Sarah as always, and today I'm going to tell you the story of Ghastly Gary. Ghastly Gary was my ghostly roommate for a number of years, quite a long time ago, and I thought it would make a good story to tell you guys. I think you all will enjoy it. And I also want to let you know that this story fits in with a couple of other videos. I don't know if they'll be posted by the time you're seeing this, but when they are all posted, I'll put the links in the description and or on the screen so that you can check those out as well. Sometime in my 20s, me and some roommates moved into this particular place. We were all into the paranormal. I think we were even all on the same paranormal team at one point. We didn't really expect to move into a haunted house, and I think at first when we started to kind of figure it out, we were a little bit excited about the fact that we were going to have a ghost for a roommate. And it didn't take us long to figure out that Ghastly Gary was among us. Ghastly Gary is what we came to know this ghost by. We affectionately dubbed him this just because it seemed fitting. He seemed like a Gary, and he was a little bit ghastly, and that's what we called him for the duration of time that we were there. The very first day that we moved into this place, we all saw him. Everybody saw him. My first experience with him, I was loading some stuff out of a box into the dishwasher. I could see the dining room area and the living room out of my peripheral vision, and I thought maybe it was one of my roommates. When I finally turned to look, there was nobody there, and I was just talking up a storm to this person while I was loading the dishwasher, and it turned out to be Gary. So that was the first time that I saw him. And I'm not entirely sure what the details are of like my roommates, but they all saw him too, because that evening after we had quit unloading stuff and unpacking for the day, we decided to have a couple of beers and relax. And I kept thinking, should I mention it? Should I not mention it? And I was like, guys, I think there's a ghost here. And they agreed. So apparently they saw him too. So us being young, of course, our house was kind of like the party place. My roommate often had lots and lots of people over, but there was one particular girl, and I didn't know her, but I guess this one particular girl was freaked out so bad by something that she said she would never come back. A lot of people who would come over actually had an experience with him. It was rare for someone to come in and not experience Gary. I never got a weird feeling about Gary. I always felt like he was kind of cool, calm, and collected, and I never really felt uncomfortable around Ghastly Gary for whatever reason. I don't know. I feel like I probably should have, but I think he was a pretty benign spirit or entity. I don't know. I never felt any sort of ominous presence when he was around. The activity was very noticeable. We actually had a couple of mutual friends over one night, Jamie and Adam, like the Mythbusters, but of course it wasn't the Mythbusters. But these two were over just hanging out, watching TV, drinking some beers, whatever it was that we would do. I don't remember what it was, but something happened that night that they experienced that was so overwhelming that they were like completely bent out of shape, and they're like, we have to ghost hunt right now. Let's ghost hunt the house. So I remember we had an impromptu late night ghost hunt, like a little mini investigation. And I don't think really anything too strange happened. I think we maybe got some weird hits on the K2 meter or something like that. As time went on, we decided that maybe we should have an official paranormal investigation there. Maybe try to find out what it was that Gary wanted. One night, we had an investigation, like a full-blown official investigation with the team. And we did it exactly like we would do it any place else. We set up cameras and recorders, and nothing really happened until sometime toward the end of the night, which I don't think we didn't hunt for that long like we normally would in any other place. But it was still an official investigation. We were doing an EVP session in the living room, and we were all kind of sitting around just doing the EVP thing like we always did. And over in the corner, there was a stack of boxes, like broke down boxes from where we had moved in. They had been there. We were kind of cycling through them, like as we'd unpack things, like take the box, put it in the corner, and then they would get thrown out, and then we would add more as we unpacked more. So this pile of boxes had more or less been there, for like probably a couple of months at this point, and it was stable. It never fell. We never had any problems out of it. But then all of a sudden, at one point in the investigation, in the EVP session, this stack of boxes, it was like somebody slapped it and they kind of flew out into the floor, and one of the boxes even hit one of the investigators. And I thought that was pretty strange. I kind of felt like that night that Gary clammed up on us and didn't really want to talk. I don't know why, but I kind of felt like I maybe connected with him in some way, like I understood him or something. I know that sounds nuts, but I fully expected him to stay hidden for most of the night during the investigation. So that's the only thing we got that night, and I don't know if it was him who did it, because I believe that there were multiple entities in this particular location. One of the weirdest things that happened there, and this could be also attributed to another entity, I don't know, but I was home alone one evening, and I was sitting at the computer, and I heard my back door open, and I heard someone come in the back door, and I knew that there was no one needing to come through that door at that time of the day. And I was pretty certain that the door was locked, and I don't know how long it went on, but this whole thing felt like it lasted forever, because I was so scared, because to me this wasn't paranormal. This was like a person, breaking into my house. I was completely petrified, and I had no idea what to do. So I listened to these footsteps come through my kitchen and stop just somewhere outside of my bedroom door. And I was thinking so many thoughts at that point. I really had no idea what to do. But I knew that I needed to find out if there was a person sneaking into my house. So I think I just burst out of my room at some point, and there was nobody there. The back door was even still locked. So, that was paranormal. I was kind of relieved that that was paranormal, but at the same time, I was also, pretty freaked out about it. Stuff like that would happen from time to time, subtle things, but unmistakable things. There was another occasion where, same situation, I was home alone, I was at the computer in my room, and I heard someone in the living room. And the sound that I was hearing, it took a second for it to kind of dawn on me that this was not normal, that this was like not just an appliance or, the air conditioner unit or like whatever, just making this kind of like mechanical noise. And I remember stopping at some point, and I was like, what is that sound? And I listened to it for a little bit, and it was like a distinct sound that I was familiar with, and it sounded like somebody flipping a Zippo lighter open and closed. I don't know if you've ever seen anybody do this, but I've seen plenty of people kind of just sit around and like flick their lighter open and shut. And as I sat there and listened, I was convinced this is what I'm hearing. This is the exact sound that I'm hearing. It's a sound of that metal. And to me, that's a pretty distinctive sound. And I also have to mention that it wasn't like a timed sound. It wasn't like a ticking of a clock or anything. First of all, I didn't have any clocks or anything like that in my house. But second of all, it was like an organic rhythm, like a person doing it. It wasn't like a mechanical object clicking or ticking or, whatever. Eventually, after a couple of minutes, I got up from the computer and I went into the living room to look. And of course, there was nobody there. This is around the time when I started with the astral projection stuff. So I had, at this point just started to kind of get into it. And so for a while it was confusing because we didn't really know, for me personally, when weird things would happen and my roommates would tell me about it, I wouldn't really know how to take things because I had so many thoughts going on in my head. For example, my roommate tells me one time, we heard a woman talking. We thought it was coming from your room, and then it wasn't. It was coming from the other side of the house. And then, just a lot of weird, crazy things like that were going on. And simultaneously, I'm practicing astral projection. And in the back of my mind, I'm kind of thinking, am I haunting my own house? I'm projecting. Maybe that's what they're hearing. And I also, for a long time, I kind of believed, and I think I still really do believe, that during the times where I was astral projecting, I think I may have been meeting the entities that were in this particular location on the astral plane. And I think maybe that's one of the reasons that I seem to have a closer connection with this, Ghastly Gary, is I think I was like meeting him or getting to know him or having some sort of interaction with him during the times when I was astral projecting. There was one particular instance where I was in bed asleep. My roommates came in. It was really late at night. And one of them brought some stuff into the house, and I was projecting, and I was able to watch what he was doing. And I saw pretty much everything he did for a short period of time after he came in. And then the next morning, I was able to validate what happened to me in my sleep, to kind of validate whether or not it was real or a dream, by going and actually finding these items that he brought into the house. I think this was probably one of my first kind of hits with astral projections. I was really blown away by this. And I wanted to tell him about it. And when I did, he said, it's weird that you say that, because I thought Ghastly Gary was out creeping around last night because it felt like he was watching me. I could feel somebody watching me as I was doing XYZ. And I was like, you know what? I think that was me. I don't know if it was the paranormal activity here or the extraterrestrial activity here, or maybe both, but I felt like something in this particular place, or, maybe something that was going on in my life that I wasn't aware of. Something was conducive to sort of amplifying my confidence and ability this time period and all of this activity for the next couple of years. This is where it kind of started initially. And if you watch the other videos that, I've mentioned a couple times now, you'll kind of see what I'm talking about. There was one particular night when I was out on the porch looking at the sky after dark, and I saw a UFO darting around in the sky, and I knew that it wasn't a plane or a helicopter because, first of all, it was moving way too fast. Second of all, it was fairly low. It still, was about as small as like the biggest star in the sky, but it was, pretty big considering. But this thing was moving in like really erratic patterns. And I'd had in the past a lot of experiences with seeing a particular UFO. So I guess at that point I kind of assumed that it was the same one. I went into the house and I asked my roommate, I was like, hey, do you want to come see my alien? And he comes out on the porch and it was still there. And he was actually able to see it, and he was really freaked out about that. I think he talked about it for a couple of weeks, pretty much nonstop, because I don't think he had ever had an experience like that at that point. But we both watched this thing dart around the sky. To us, definitely meant that this was extraterrestrial, because you don't really see planes do that at all. And helicopters, although they could, but this thing was probably still higher than a helicopter. So I mentioned that I believe that there are multiple paranormal entities in this particular place where I lived. Although we mostly ever saw Gary, I did end up seeing another entity at one point. I was in the master bathroom putting on my makeup or something one evening, and out of the corner of my eye I could see something, a figure of some sort, but it was small, standing kind of in the middle of my bedroom floor, and it was like it was facing me as if it was watching me. When I finally kind of look, the only way I really know to describe this entity is it was small, like a kid. It was pretty short. And it was almost like, how you make a blanket ghost? You put a blanket or a sheet over your head and your ghost. It was kind of like that. Whatever this thing was, I immediately felt very fearful. I felt so scared that I actually just quit what I was doing and went outside. And I sat on the porch until I could call a friend or somebody to come to the house and hang out with me, because I was too afraid to go back in. And it's weird that this was my response, or that this is how I felt, because in all the times that I'd seen Ghastly Gary, I never felt that way about him. But whatever this other thing was legitimately terrifying. So I really wish that somewhere along the line I had been keeping a journal or something, of all of the stuff that happened there, I really kicked myself for not, because there were so many things, just so many paranormal things, little things, big things. And I know I've forgotten a lot of them over the years, and I really hate that. Guys, if you have paranormal activity in your house, just get a notebook and take a minute, you know, every time something happens, even if you don't know for sure if it's paranormal, and write it down and like put a date on it and a time if you can. Because, you know, memories like this, no matter how crazy they are in the moment, eventually they will fade. And then, you know, years down the road, you want to retell the story and tell people what you experienced, but you can't because you can't remember it all. And so I really wish that I had done that, but unfortunately I didn't. But I know that for like the whole time that I lived there, which was a couple or 3 years, something like that, it was an all the time thing. Gary never made me feel scared or uncomfortable, but the other entity did. I do wish I had written it all down. So that's the story of Ghastly Gary. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Please feel free to take a moment and like this video and subscribe to Paranormally Correct for more spooky paranormal content. And until next time, guys, don't get eaten by Dogman and don't get abducted by aliens, and I will see you all very, very soon.